internet and smartphone have been game changers for people living in poorer countries, connecting people and educating them, keeping them in touch. But in the era of social media, falsehoods and hate have also been given new life. Months after Mark Zuckerberg said he was working on the problem, Reuters today revealed it's found more than 1,000 Burmese posts spreading hate. It also has intelligence from insiders who describe the inadequate infrastructure the company has for taking the material down. In the West, it's horrible. Over there, it can be fatal. From India to Sri Lanka and above all in Myanmar, which stands accused of ethnic cleansing of its Rohingya Muslim population. James Clayton has been looking at the evidence. His report includes some distressing images.
The violence that forced the Rohingya to flee wasn't random, and it wasn't out of the blue either. Hatred for Muslims isn't uncommon in Burmese society. Now we're beginning to understand how hate speech, both before and during that violence, was spread on Facebook. And how the organisation seemingly failed to act early enough.
People these days in Burma, they don't watch TV, they don't buy newspapers, they don't listen to radio. They go on their local phone and they go on Facebook. Facebook is the means of communication in Burma.
One study found that Facebook is used by a whopping 75% of people in Myanmar, and of them, 3/4 get their news primarily from Facebook. Alan Davis from the Institute of War and Peace Reporting began to monitor social media posts in 2015.
We found there was absolutely no hate speech on radio, very little on TV, little in print newspapers. We found all the hate speech was on essentially Facebook.
Much of what was shared wasn't just hate-filled, it was fake.
So this is an example of fake news, hate speech that you found. Mm-hmm. Talk me through it.
This shows a picture of a dead girl, and the post alleges that she went out with a Muslim taxi driver and was murdered because she didn't have sex with him. And of course the picture isn't from Burma at all, the picture's from Bangladesh. And this girl was murdered, I think, in like 2010. So this is a small example of many kinds of fake news that was deliberately manipulated and circulated to incite violence.
These monks belong to a group called Ma Ba-Ta, a nationalist Buddhist organisation. They had a supporters Facebook page until it was banned by Facebook in April. Ray Serato looked at the posts on that page.
What I wanted to see was whether or not there was an uptick in hate speech or any posts about the Rohingya at the same time in which the military had begun its clearance operations in Rakhine State. And indeed, that's what we ended up finding was, at least during the 3-month period in which we monitored the group, it swelled up to 55,000 members. And they had posted almost 15,000 times, and the majority of those posts, around 90%, were in that period immediately after the conflict.
The UN had already flagged up its concerns about hate speech on Facebook in April.
We know that the ultranationalist Buddhists have their own Facebooks and really inciting a lot of violence and a lot of hatred against the Rohingya or other ethnic minorities.
Yes, we're working on this.
This was Zuckerberg's response when questioned by a Senate committee in Washington.
We're hiring dozens of more Burmese language content reviewers because hate speech is very language specific. It's hard to do it without people who speak the local language, and we need to ramp up our effort there dramatically. Second is we're working with civil society in Myanmar to identify specific hate figures so we can take down their accounts rather than specific pieces of content. And third is we're standing up a product team to do specific product changes in Myanmar and other countries that may have similar issues in the future to prevent this from happening.
Tonight, Reuters has questioned how successful that strategy has been. They found over 1,000 examples of hate speech that were live before they notified Facebook. Some believe that the only answer to this is to hire more people who speak local languages to manually monitor posts.
I think, I think we have an idea of kind of the resources they need in Germany, for example, where they employ over 1,000 content reviewers now because of the law that was passed here. But here's a good example. The International Crisis Group, which is one of the leading international NGOs which specialize in conflict analysis, they have an operating budget of around 17 million a year. I think Facebook's recently reported profits are around 4.2 billion. That's profit. So I think they could certainly use some of that profit to invest in specific areas where you have conflict, which are conflict prone.
It's not just Facebook that has a problem. A series of recent lynchings in India has been in part blamed on WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook, after false rumours of child abduction were spread on the app. In both India and Myanmar, it's led many to ask whether enough is being done to prevent social media platforms from being used to incite not just hatred, but murder.
James Clayton reporting. Now, Facebook told us they have a responsibility to fight abuse, and they say this is especially true in countries like Myanmar, where many people are using the internet for the first time, and Facebook can be used to spread hate and incite violence. They said it's a problem we were too slow to spot and why we're now working hard to prevent it. Well, I'm joined from New York by Tenmori Soundararajan of Equality Labs, a South Asian community technology organisation, and from LA by Professor Sarah Roberts of UCLA, who's written extensively about content moderation, including in Myanmar. Sarah, you will have heard that Facebook what they say about it. They've admitted, really, it's not good enough and a lot more needs to be done. Is that remotely happening? Are they really working on it?
I have no reason to believe that they're not working on it. I think the issue that they are contending with is one of scope and of the ecology that they've designed, which is to allow people from all over the world, at this point upwards of 2 billion, to access their platform and upload whatever content they will to be disseminated, then for that content to potentially be reviewed later, but certainly that would come after it's already on the platform, and therein lies the difficulty.
Right. Tenmori, what do you think about Facebook saying, look, we're doing our best here?
Well, for me, I think that, as someone who lives both in India and the United States, I think that Facebook's apology tour is not really what's needed at this moment. At this point, there are multiple countries around the world in which Facebook's interference in our elections and in our society has destabilized our democracies. And at this point, we don't need PR. What we need is action. We need transparency, and we need parity of accountability. Because if you remember what Facebook did in the wake of destabilizing democracies in the United States and in Europe, there was clear attempts at trying to make engagements with civil society. Like, for example, in the United States, they offered a civil rights audit that would be done by a third-party institution supervised by civil rights organizations. That has not been offered to any of the countries in the Global South, even though we represent over 76% of the users on Facebook. And frankly, when you look at Facebook's work in the Global South, we really have to look at the consequences of what their lack of investment in the proper amount of human resources, cultural competency, and understanding of our cultural context, not as markets, but as countries that deserve autonomy and respect, the widespread danger that they've caused. Like in Myanmar, we've seen the first socially mediated genocide. In Syria, we've seen the first war mediated on the platform. And in India, we've seen the largest democracy in the world disrupted as we see chaos and right-wing forces,
but are you,
literally
just to push you
pitching
on
Hindus
this,
against Muslims.
Are you saying you don't want Facebook in the Global South? No, you're not saying that.
No, I'm not saying that Facebook shouldn't be part of the Global South, but I'm saying that the way platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, and Google operate in our countries needs to massively change.
Right.
What we're seeing is very colonial-era models of technology, where you have people in the global north deciding, here's a great platform, let me deploy in country, and not at all have any of the cultural competency or even the language skills needed to understand.
Not barely any people who speak the language. Let me just...
No, I mean, in Myanmar, for a country of 10 million, you had only 3 language providers at the height of this violence. How is that even sustainable, given that so much of content moderation requires not just context of the slur, but even basic understanding of the language?
And I think through contractors, they do have now many more than 3, but still very many fewer than... Look, Sarah Roberts, what needs to happen, just to tell us what needs to happen in order for this problem to be contained?
Well, the first thing that we need is transparency and accountability from the platforms. And when we're talking about content moderation in these commercial contexts and at scale, one thing that isn't even overt or clear to the world's users and populace is on whose behalf is this moderation being done? So is this moderation being done to appease a particular government? Is it being done to make a market, so-called, happy in a particular part of the world? Is it done to the benefit of the company that provides the service? In most cases, I would say it leans toward the latter, and that really isn't adequate anymore. But the biggest problem is that we have very little information on the internal rules and procedures that are followed, or where in the world the work is being done. And we've done a lot of relying on leakers, investigative journalists, and academics and other members of civil society to get that information out.
I mean, Maury, I think a lot of us had thought the answer was to employ a lot more people moderating, and a lot more people. You know, in Germany, they're a different order of magnitude to what they'll have in global South countries. But it sounds to me as though you're saying it needs to be more than just employing more people.
I absolutely think so, because again, I think, as my fellow panelists just shared, we don't actually know the extent and the scale of the problem, because there's been very little transparency about what Facebook has done in many of our countries. And this is why, in order for us to have parity of treatment in terms of how the global South is treated versus countries in the global North, we need each of our countries in which we've seen wide-scale disasters, whether it's, you know, genocide or the destabilization of democracies in India, we need to be able to be offered independent third-party audits that look at the way Facebook's internal policies and programs have detrimentally affected the minorities in those countries, and more particularly, beyond the way that the platforms are being weaponized for disinformation, we need to look specifically at how Facebook's elections and government unit has basically worked to basically support parties on one side, but not parties on the other. Because every country that the unit has operated in, we've seen figures of the right wing rise to power. Whether it's Duterte in the Philippines or Modi in India, this is a problem, and we need to have more data to be able to know how to fix the problem.
Maury and Sarah, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.